Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Jones. She's asleep on the couch, and I just watched The Tomorrow War. And you may remember that I analyzed the trailer of The Tomorrow War, and I just rewatched my own video to see if I called it. I called most of it. But let's get into it. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Please check out my books: Woke Stand a Novel, Hollywoke Another Novel, Political Satire in the Movie Industry, and of course the Pineys books 1 through 6, Comedy Horror in South Jersey, book 7, dropping this month. Find it all at Amazon.com. Kindle Unlimited is free. If you have Amazon Prime like I do to watch this movie, you already have Kindle Unlimited. You can read all my books for nothing and I get paid. Thank you for supporting the channel. Now, first, I'm going to do my standard screenwriter's take. I'm going to give you a brief overview, review with no spoilers in case you still want to see the movie. Does it work? In my opinion, not really. Chris Pratt is charismatic, but the movie is too long, I feel. It's 2 hours and like 15 minutes. I think they could have easily cut out a good half hour of this movie. Seriously. It's very luxurious. In that there's a lot of scenes that set up things and they take their good old time, which sometimes is nice. But because this concept doesn't really hold together, in my view, you're just wasting a lot of time. You're not answering the questions. And this movie has elements of every sci-fi movie regarding aliens. Alien, Predator, elements of The Thing, then the time travel. The time travel is almost unnecessary, but that hinges on what I called in the trailer, which is him meeting his future daughter, or his daughter, who's a little kid when the movie starts, and when he goes into the future, she's an adult. And all that is so contrived, because if you didn't have this whole time travel element built into the movie, it wouldn't work. And one of the problems with the movie overall is it feels like no one's trying to save the Earth but Chris Pratt and a handful of people. And not all of them are totally into it. Seriously, like, the world is going to die. They know this. And people are treating it like, well, I got stuff to do. I mean, if the world's going to die, you'd think people would be interested in maybe helping out, maybe giving the people involved the appropriate resources and time to do what they need to do. No one seems to communicate anything. Pratt is great in the movie. I like Pratt. And J.K. Simmons is in it, and he's good. The cast is solid enough. But, and this is an odd thing to say, I've seen a ton of movies, and a lot of times movies are over-militarized, right? You look at a movie like, the first one to come to mind was Transformers. It's totally over-militarized. But, the thing is, the military stuff seems real. You got guys doing military things. This movie, it feels like Chris Pratt's the only one who knows that stuff, and almost everybody else, with the possible exception of J.K. Simmons, is like out to lunch, and including the other military guys who should be on board and be military in a movie. It's really odd. It's an odd tone. There's a lot of contrived scenes that are just designed to have these meetups with characters. And the alien invasion is like almost secondary to some degree. It really is. So I found the movie extremely odd. The ending, the messaging's positive. Again, Pratt's good. It's just, I think you're going to find the movie a bit long. I found myself, I wanted to zoom through it. If I wasn't doing a review, I was this close to zooming through parts of it, but then I said, I can't zoom through parts of it. People will nail me on that in the review. So I didn't. I endured, but man, you're killing me in this movie. Too luxurious. Easily 30 minutes gone from this movie. It'd be a lot tighter. I don't know if it would be a better movie. It's not smart enough. It feels like the screenwriters watched a bunch of movies. They said, write The Tomorrow War, and they gave them a couple of elements, and then they said, okay, we're going to sit down all weekend and watch every famous sci-fi movie, and then they just took those elements and jammed them in the thing. So I gotta say, a thumbs down. I really do. You know, Chris Pratt deserves a better movie. Really, everybody does. It's just, it's okay. You know, there's action and whatever. But, okay, so that concludes my non-spoiler review. Now let me get into the spoilers. So if you're actually still going to watch the movie after that review, you know, you should stop here, because I'm going to get into what actually happens. Okay. So you probably watched the movie. The time travel thing just doesn't work. It just doesn't work, right? Because they confine it to this 30-year jump. That's the only thing they can do. Now, they try their best to explain why they can only do that jump. But doesn't really make any sense to me. I don't, you know. It seems like a very specific technology. Well, we had enough technology to make one time portal for 30 years apart, where time continues to flow as it continues to flow 30 years prior, but we can't do that again in any way, shape, or form. And our plan is to go back, draft people from 30 years ago who are dead already in the future, or would be, and then bring them to the future where most of them die because they're older, which is an interesting aspect of the movie, right? Like, Chris Pratt looks around and realizes, like, everybody's in their 40s, and that's part of the deal. Like, they draft people they know are dead in the future. But they also have information about how everybody died from the future, right? So that's useful information, too. You could maybe solve a lot of problems, and you certainly could, you know, they know that it comes from Russia, right? They know it starts in Russia. So you're 30 years prior, you could start combing Russia for the aliens. And the big reveal, of course, at the end, and big spoilers, this is the spoiler part, remember, you know, that it's buried in ice, which is straight out of the thing. And they didn't land, they were frozen in ice. And then they, you know, they tie in the climate change because Hollywood. And really, even the designs of the ship reminds me of aliens. But, you know, the white spikes, as they call them, which is an odd name, are cargo on a ship. And Pratt says, oh, maybe they were weapons, maybe they, who knows what the hell. But, you know, that's a convoluted explanation, just like the parasites from Aliens, right? The bugs from Alien, they don't have their own ships. They can't possibly, they're hive mind, they don't build things. That's part of their, you know, creepiness. So these creatures are exactly the same. So it would have to be an alien ship that crash landed on our planet with that specific cargo for some reason, and everybody died in the crash, but the evil monsters that they had in their cargo bay somehow survived. And they survived for a long, long time until in 2048 they just magically pop up and start causing havoc. And they're totally uncontrollable, right? The power level on these aliens is way off the charts. It's just too off the charts. Okay? You know, at that level, you might as well just start nuking cities in an attempt to... You might as well have just nuked half of Russia in an attempt to stop them. You know, at the power level they're at. And they send people back in time, and it's like they're shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting these aliens, and they don't die. They don't die until Chris Pratt or J.K. Simmons shoots them anyway, or some of the main characters. It's like, I mean, they take a lot of bullets. Which is, you know, that I don't feel that their power level is very consistent. You know, because they had this scene where a bunch of soldiers get, I guess, caught, and they're like, the whole squad just goes down and they're dead. And then the aliens come out and kill them all, eat them all. And it's just like, they're just an endless, monstrous feast fest. And all they do is keep spawning, which they never really get into. other than there are males and females. And, the females are kind of like the hive creatures in Aliens, in that there's more males than females, I think. But, I, you know, and of course, like, there's all this timing going on. You only go to the future for 1 week and serve, and then you come back if you survive. But, like, it's like a 70% death rate. So, you have these magic devices that send you back in a week automatically. And, all the timing is just, like, absolutely perfect in this movie to have all the dramatic moments you need to have. And I called it in my assessment that part of it was so Pratt could meet his daughter in the future and have a big interaction. And of course, it's like J.K. Simmons abandoned Pratt as a father, and then she has the same chip on her shoulder about him because he dies in the future. But here's the problem with the whole premise of this. The alien invasion doesn't happen till after Pratt dies. And they're doing this time travel thing, and she develops this poison for the aliens specifically so they could kill them all. And the poison works against the males, but not the females. And that's the big problem, except it's not the big problem. Why don't you release the poison and kill all the males? Because at least it would buy you some time. Doesn't make any sense. And then she says specifically, we were going to die anyway, go back in time, develop the poison, and prevent all this. And there's all these moments in which Pratt and his daughter are like, oh no, I'm going to die in the future. Yeah, but he's going back into the past to prevent that. So, and there's even that moment where Pratt jumps off to save her and he couldn't possibly save her. It's like, just so he can disappear in mid-jump at the exact time. It's stupid. It's really dumb. It's artificial to me, and it makes it all like these forced dramatic moments. And like, she ends up meeting her dad. First off, the death rate is off the scale for people sending back in the past, and it's like the moment Pratt shows up, it's like she knew she was going to meet him, right? There was a very good chance he would have died. And the way it all goes down, of course, like, lots of people just die because the whole thing goes foobar, right? Which, just adds to it. I mean, that's the one good thing I'll say for the screenwriters. At least they're trying hard. They're trying hard to make this concept work. And there are some smart things. I'll give them their due. It's smart that they show up at the World Cup because obviously everybody would be watching. It's the most watched thing ever. Not really in the United States, but okay, we'll give it to you. And, so that's smart. And then they keep throwing out like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And then that it's kind of like that, but then a bunch of other obstacles happen too. So there are all these crazy scenes with people dying all over the place and injuring themselves. The snail from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia in it, which I found amusing that she just magically showed up. But, it doesn't work. The concept doesn't work because all these things have to be in place for it to work. And then, her and Pratt are working on this solution, and like they're the only two working on it. Like, I get it. Okay, so you're super important, and a lot of people are dead because they're down to 500,000 people or whatever. But feels like no one's helping them. And she's like, "Oh, let me work. Get away from me." And then just stupid things happen. So, they have this big conversation about the female that they capture, which that whole scene is just dumb. It's just dumb, makes no sense how they capture. It's just long for the sake of, oh, let's have a big scene where everybody's nearly killed trying to grab this thing. It's not a good plan. It is absolutely not a good plan. And Chris Pratt has to go in there and save her, but that's on the screenwriters. Like, they should have had a smarter plan to capture her and they just don't. And the nest where she's hiding, I just don't get it. And it just seems like an endless supply of CGI aliens everywhere. It's just too much. And then suddenly they attack the place at the end, or towards the end of the second act, right? And they're trying to develop this serum, and of course that's when they attack, just as they develop the serum. Timing. And it's like, come on, man. Really we're gonna do that? It's lazy. The whole thing is lazy in that way. I feel though maybe the screenwriters were forced into this concept and they're trying to make it work, but they really don't. It's a concept that just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. The aliens are so dumb and powerful, and the people fighting them are dumb. They're just dumb. They don't fight them very well. And you're telling me like they've been fighting these things in the future. They have enough time and technology to build the time portal, but not enough to develop the toxin better. And wouldn't it have just been smart to send everybody back into the past who survived and just get ready for the next round, right? I mean, why not? If you're going to break the rules of time travel anyway, right? If you're going to try to change the past, then just effing change it. Forget about the toxin. Just go back in time and say, oh yeah, there's 500,000. We're the last of humanity. And in the future, everybody's wiped out by these aliens. But we've come back because in 30 years, we'll get you ready. And by the time they show up, well, it'll be no problem. I mean, that would be the smart thing, right? But this isn't about being smart. It's about creating one sort of fake drama thing after another. And then the final act where they go on this mission where no one wants to help them. Come on. Really? You expect me to believe in this world that the anti-war movement is so incredible? First off, who the hell knows when these guys even show up? Who would believe their crazy story? But okay, let's give you that much. Let's give you that much that they have enough proof that people go, oh yeah, you really are from the future. You're predicting the future left and right, so you must be. And they do some tests or whatever, and yeah, okay, you're from the future. But then the next step is, well, we're going to keep zapping your people to the future where most of them die. And that's our plan. Because that's the only thing we can think of. That doesn't make any sense. Right? Like, why not, I don't know, go into the future with a nuclear bomb and start dropping it on some of these hives? I mean, again, at least it would buy you some time. Again, the toxin. Like, if Chris Pratt can go to the future and then come back to the past and change the future, then you all could do it. Did no one think of that? And again, if I'm being overrun by aliens, my first move is not to go, hey, as long as we're building stuff, let's build a time travel thing because that'll help somehow. No, I mean, you could totally get overrun while you're operating the time portal, and one of the things could go back in time and start the whole thing 30 years too early. Maybe spend your time in technology working on that amazing toxin, which again it wasn't so amazing anyway because Chris Pratt seemed to have to inject it into every alien to make them die. Like, wouldn't you have a better delivery system than, I got to run up to this thing and, like a bullet full of the toxin that explodes inside them? I mean, we have all kinds of crazy bullets now. We don't need any future technology to make special bullets that'll explode inside of you. We have plenty of them. And you fill it with this toxin, you shoot the thing, kaboom, just dies. Or, how about a dart gun? A dart gun. A dart drills into you. I mean, something. Doesn't seem like it makes a whole ton of sense, this movie. It's just an excuse to have this big dramatic fight at the end. you know, and the spaceship thing is just off the charts nuts. The way they find it, I mean, I I'm reminded of what I said about what the hell was that movie with Nicolas Cage where he steals the Declaration of Independence. I forget the name of the movie, but I called that movie like idiot's version of the Da Vinci Code. This movie's like an idiot's version of The Thing combined with aliens. It makes no sense. It's just like Chris Pratt's wife like puts it together in like 10 minutes. Like, oh, well, what's the problem? Well, they don't know where the aliens landed. Well, maybe they didn't land. Huh. Nobody ever thought of that. I mean, the world was dying, and we probably had every top scientist on it, but hey, fresh eyes. And then Pratt, the same thing. They're just driving around the tundra in Russia, which was dumb enough that they even got there, because there's a shot of that plane coming in, like, there's no place to land, so, you know, I don't know how they landed. I don't know how they got there. Like, you would think they would have been forced to parachute in. They were supposed to be under the radar because the Russians wouldn't cooperate, because, you know, Russians, and, you know, they're not interested in saving the world and their own skin, so obviously we couldn't make that work. I mean, the whole premise of like, well, we can't work with the Russians, that's never going to work. Why? I mean, if they believe the whole premise and they're sending people back in time to die, then I think they're going to say, well, we don't have to send people back in time? Okay, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's go find this spaceship or whatever. And they do have technology to find things under the ice, so I think they might have used that. But, you know, Chris Pratt driving around on a snowmobile and, oh, my compass isn't working. Hey, must be an alien spaceship. So, whatever. And then they just, okay, here it is. Let's just blow up part of the glacier and see what happens. And they do, and they, you know, find the ship. And they don't immediately find the ship, but they might as well have. I mean, I just didn't need to see, like, 2 minutes of them walking through ice caves. I didn't need to see that. It would have been a better movie had I not seen that, because by that time I'm like, oh my god, just find the damn ship. I mean, we're deep in the third act. We already know how this is going to end. You know, Chris Pratt isn't going to, well, he could have died, maybe, but, you know, get to the friggin' point. Get to the last alien or whatever. And, you know, the sloppy way they go to kill the aliens, you know, the one guy's like, well, you know, I got C4, I'll detonate it if I have to. It's like, And the explosion is massive. Like, it's just massive. It's way more than, you know, C4. I would think, you know, he'd have to be carrying, like, suitcases full of this stuff. But somehow it magically blows up, and for all he knows, that spreads the aliens all over the tundra and causes the whole thing to begin with. I mean, they could easily do a sequel. Just change the physics of the friggin' aliens, or have one of them to survive. One of them could have easily gotten out of the ship. It was such a cluster F. Didn't seem like, you know. And 2 guys hold off the aliens as they're coming out of the back end of the ship. They drilled a hole in. I mean, they sent thousands and thousands of people to die and fight the aliens, but 2 guys, well, against 3, and that's not a very realistic assessment based on the power levels you presented in the movie. Again, I'm not, I hate to yell at Pratt, and I hate to criticize a movie Pratt's in, because I think he's a fun actor, he deserves better. I wanted so badly to like this movie. It's got a positive message, but it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's just, you know, it's like they came out with a drama movie about dads and family, and they stuck all this sci-fi stuff from movies they watched, because it's very derivative. Very derivative. How about a different alien species? Okay? How about a different one? How about a smart one? That fights at the height of the intelligence, rather than just this wave after wave of CGI. It's not scary. It gets boring after a while. It really does. Um, I mean, the visuals are pretty spectacular. Don't get me wrong. The design of the aliens, crazy. I mean, I'm sure it'll be a decent video game. But that's what it felt like. It didn't felt like there was a tremendous amount of emotional weight, especially when the daughter falls off that catwalk or whatever. And Pratt jumps out after her. So stupid. There's just a sea of the monsters. Oh, she's gonna die. It's so sad. No, it's not. He's going back in time to prevent that from ever happening. We all know that. We all know that from watching the damn movie. She saves him from all that. So what's the big deal? At that point, Pratt might as well say, how can I go back earlier? And he's like, well, I'll come back and save you. That doesn't matter if you can change the past. And his daughter tells him almost right up front. Not right up front, but once they get into the conversation, we're going to change the past. So, and that seems to be her plan the entire time. And there's this escape in that end of the second act to the helicopter. If that's the plan, just to send him back, and you look at the time, and he's going back in like 20 minutes or whatever. She runs out of the lab with the vial while they're both, doing this. But she doesn't give him the vial until she gets injured. It's like, if the plan was to have him go back into the past and fix everything with the magic vial of stuff, why would you even take it? Here, Dad, take the vial. We got to just protect you until, just put him in a panic room until he disappears. Made of iron and steel. I'm sure they would have had one. But, they needed windows so the aliens could get into the lab, I guess. And so the weird alien female could go, and all the males could attack this ocean fortress and force. I mean, every moment of this movie just seems so contrived. And again, J.K. Simmons, another good actor. Like, he's great. Every line with him and Pratt, it's a solid line. But as soon as it gets into this time travel alien bull, it's like, you're really making these guys work for their paycheck. So, yeah, tell us how you really feel, Tone. Well, I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed because I really wanted to like this movie. I wanted it to be good. It's an Amazon original movie, and I would rate it like a 3 out of 10, maybe. It's watchable. It's if you haven't seen all the movies I rattled off that I think this movie steals from, then yeah, I mean, it's probably a cool movie to you, but The Thing is an amazing movie. The first Alien movie, incredible. And for time travel, I mean, look, you S the bed the moment you said, oh, we'll do the Tomorrow War. There's a famous novel. Is it called The Tomorrow War? I forget what it's called now. I think it's called The Tomorrow War too. But that one's more scientifically based, where it's about a character. I can't think of the name of the book. I should have looked it up before I did this review. But the premise of the movie is he's traveling to aliens' planets to fight aliens in a war, but because of light speed, it F's up the time. And he eventually falls in love, and then there's this idea that like him and his lover have to meet up in time, and they kind of get displaced doing all these light speed jumps, and technology changes and all kinds of things changes. A fascinating book. Great sci-fi novel. Would have been great to spend the money on that as opposed to this, where it's like the concept is, it seems like all the sci-fi stuff was sacrificed just so we could have the same melodramatic moments we get in every friggin' movie every single time. And I'll say that Pratt and the rest of the cast sell it. J.K. Simmons sells it well. The comedic relief, he's all right, I guess. I didn't really like him. I thought he was okay. You know, and the screenwriters do the thing where they don't introduce somebody who doesn't add to the movie. So that part of it is good. It is watchable. I'll say that. It's watchable, but it's way too long. Way too long. I think you'll be... I was at the 1 hour mark. 1 hour and like 6 minutes going, oh man, how much more of this? It feels long, and that's a bad sign. You know? I get it. You can do helicopter shots, and you've got lots of money. It's production value, sure, but if it's meaningless to the plot, you know, you went all over the world, at least in the movie, to shoot all this stuff. But, you know, there are more creative ways to tackle the same exact things you want to say. So, if it's just an excuse to tie in all these things, so, you know, actors can be in exotic locations, that's not the way to build a movie. You build the movie based on a good story and a good script first. And yes, if there's exotic locales, great. But if you don't need them, you don't need them. You know, it's... You know what would have been interesting? The Tomorrow War, where, I don't know, it's just the United States against some other group of humans, and the United States sends somebody back in time to save the country. Not that you'll ever see that made in Hollywood right now. But I think Pratt would star in it if they did. But Pratt handles himself well. I mean, again, he's a treat to watch. So that he almost carries the movie. But, you know, premise-wise, if you stop to think about it, it's kind of like, you know, when the side characters give the explanation, you're like, what? And it's just accepted, and they move on. And again, that whole thing about timing. It's just artificial timetables, one after another. Rookie screenwriting. Oh, we'll have an artificial timetable to increase the tension. You didn't need all that. If it was a good movie, you wouldn't need all that. So, I didn't pay for this movie. I already paid for Amazon Prime. If I had paid for the movie, I'd want my money back. I certainly want my time back. Could have been writing something. So yeah, it's no go for me. I wish Pratt would get a better script, man. He deserves a better script. He can do comedy. He can do action. You're wasting him, man. You're wasting him on this script. Yeah, I mean, is this the most original you can get? It really... Taken from every friggin' sci-fi movie you ever seen and just jamming it in? I get it. You like that stuff and you want to do it too, but you can't do it. It's already been done. This is what studios do. They you know, I said this in the making the sausage video, right? They're businessmen. They want to make sure they make money on their product. That's it. So you present them a new idea, they go, well, but you present them an idea they've heard of. Oh, it's like Aliens. Oh, that made a lot of money. Yeah, and it's kind of like The Thing. I've heard of The Thing. Money. But they're hurting their own project. Because if you let people create, yes, you're taking a risk. You're taking a risk, but you may end up with a better product. You certainly end up with an original product. You had all the promotion and money in the world to make this thing. Why wouldn't you go to some really good creative? I mean, they exist. You know, famous sci-fi guys, they're all over the place, who write novels and screenplays and all kinds of stuff. Comics. You know, good guys with good ideas. That's what Gene Roddenberry did at Star Trek. He got some of the best sci-fi guys in the business. I mean, I'm a little embarrassed for these screenwriters. Honestly, I am. I don't know. I can't believe how angry I am at this movie. It's just that I wanted to like it so bad, and I'm furious that these ideas were presented as, oh yeah, it reminds me of Independence Day in that way, which, is another very, very derivative movie. But at least in Independence Day is kind of like over the top fun because it's just so crazy, and this wasn't even that. All right, that's my. I'm sorry. I really love Chris Pratt and J.K. Simmons, and I just no. Sorry.